Assalamu alaikum, worthy students. This is Sualiha Tabasum, your English teacher. Well, up to now we have done prose. Now this is a poem in your prescribed syllabus, When You're Old. This poem has been written by a famous poet, William Butler Yeats, who was considered as a greatest Irish poet of 20th century. This man wrote a lot of poems and all of them were mostly famous. He was known for the love poems he wrote, mostly for Maud Gonne. Maud Gonne was his beloved, who did not reciprocate his love. Reciprocate, it means that she did not acknowledge his love, she did not love him back. So he was only in love from one side and she did not reciprocate or she did not return her love to him. But all through his life, even though he got married, he was only writing poems having the context of the same love he had for Maud Gonne. A passionate, a fairy love, a beautiful love, which was beyond the ages, which was all meant for all the ages of life. This whole poetry that he had written in the past or throughout his life, he had mentioned or he had addressed only to Maud Gonne, who was his beloved. So coming to this poem, in this poem we see some 3 stanzas. So all 3 stanzas are made of some 4 lines, and I have already discussed in the classroom that a 4-line stanza is always called as quatrain. A quatrain is a stanza of 4 lines, 4 verses. So here also we see that this poem is made of 3 quatrains. In the first quatrain, if we come to know, we read the poem and we'll see certain important things in this, some literal meanings, some figurative meanings, and also the literary devices. Like in the first line we see, when you're old and grey and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read, and of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. If we see, first of all, just have a look on this stanza. First of all, if we go through the style of this stanza or the structure of this stanza, we'd see that it has a rhyme scheme. I've already discussed in the classroom many times what a rhyme scheme means. A rhyme scheme means the rhyming ends of the verses of a stanza, of a poem. So here, if we see the ending words, the ending letters, ending words of this stanza, we see the rhyme scheme is as. This is the first sound, eep, sleep, and then we have the sound similar here, deep. It ends with the same kind of sound. So we have A, and then the rhyme scheme changes here. First it is A, first rhyme scheme, then it is the second rhyme scheme, that is the book, then look, ook and ook. So here it is B rhyme scheme, then B rhyme scheme, because these are the repetitive rhyme schemes, same rhyme scheme. So here we have no repetition in the second verse or in the third verse, but in the 4th verse we have the same kind of rhyming sound. So the rhyme scheme of this whole poem, of this whole stanza, is A, B, B, A. So here we see a rhyme scheme of A, B, B, A sounds. So after the rhyme scheme, let's go to the meaning of the stanza, the interpretation of this stanza. What is the interpretation? When you're old, first of all, we see that it has been referred to Maud Gonne, who is the addressee. Addressee means the person to whom something has been addressed, to whom something has been referred to. So in this poem, the addressee is Maud Gonne, whom I have already discussed before coming to this poem. Maud Gonne was one of the activists, one of the famous activists and a nationalist those days in Ireland, when they had a movement against the imperialist, or when they had a movement in the country. So what happened, that William Butler Yeats was very fond of Maud Gonne, and he wrote most of his poems for Maud Gonne. So we can say Maud Gonne was kind of a muse for William Butler Yeats. Muse means an inspiration. She was an inspiration, she was a muse for William Butler Yeats. So muse, the meaning of muse is an inspiration. Like for example, if we go to Songs of Innocence of William Blake, his muse was the nature, the clouds, or something else. So here William Butler Yeats has a muse, Maud Gonne. His inspiration is a woman, a beautiful woman whom he calls a pilgrim soul in this whole poem. So coming to the verses, the interpretation of the poem is that when you are old and grey and full of sleep, this is being referred to the Maud Gonne directly. That when you are old, like it's been written in the second person, when you are old and grey and full of sleep, what will happen then? And when you'll be nodding by the fire, when a person is very weak and meek and kind of very old, that person hardly pays attention to the active life, hardly goes interferes into the other kind of things. He or she usually remains besides the fire, besides a comfortable place, or remains in the comfort zone and kind of listens to the things in a very passive mode. Likewise, Maud Gonne is being referred to here as an old woman when she'd be old. When the time will arrive when you'd be totally old, grey, and full of sleep, like in a very drowsy form. You'd be nodding by the fire. You'd be kind of drowsily nodding. You'd be kind of drowsily moving here and there by the fire. By the fire means the person will be, remaining in the warm kind of zone. Take down this book. By the book, it is being referred either to the poems, all the poems of William Butler Yeats, or it is the same poem in which William Butler Yeats refers to this lady. So it can be directly this poem, or it can be the whole book in which the love poems have been totally referred to this lady. So it's being said as in this whole poem, whenever you feel old, when you'd be drowsy, when you'd be meek, go and look at this poem. What you will find, and slowly read, then with a very soft toned read what you'll read, and of the soft look your eyes had once, when you'd be like kind of reading these things, what you will read, you will kind of read these things. What you will read, you would dream of the soft look. Soft look, what soft look? Of the present, current state, when you were totally beautiful, when you were in your earnest form, when you were kind of like that blossom. So what will happen that when you kind of read this book, you will dream of the soft look your eyes had once. When you'd be at that time, you'd be having wrinkled shape of your face, your deformed shape of your face. But that moment when you'd read this book, you will dream about your earliest form. You will dream about the things that I have imagined in your face, in your life, in your soul. And that will be like the soft look of your eyes and their shadows deep. The beautiful, the smokiness and the depth of your eyes that you have in the current state, you'd be kind of dreaming that moment when you will be very old and meek. This was the first stanza, and this was the interpretation of this, literal interpretation of this poem. Now coming to the literary devices in this poem, like I have discussed in the classroom, what are the literary devices? Those devices which usually poet uses to enhance and enrich his poem with the meanings, and obviously he fills his poem with the kind of beauty and depth. So here the poetic devices, the literary devices are like, here if we first of all look at this, there is a repetitive use of and. So whenever you see a repetitive use, a repetition of a certain word in a poem in the successive lines, in the consecutive lines, you call it anaphora. Anaphora means the repetition of a word in the successive lines, in the consecutive lines, in the consecutive lines of a stanza. So this was first thing, and then coming to the words like you have fire here. Fire is actually a symbol. Symbol is actually, symbolism is a poetic device in which what we do, we use a particular word to identify a particular idea or quality of something. In this poem, in this stanza, the word fire has been used in order to indicate a symbol of fairy love, or the passionate love that the poet had for this Mortgane, for his beloved, which he never acknowledged. So here he is kind of symbolizing his love as passionate and fiery as the fire is, like the burning of love. So here he is symbolizing the fire by giving it actually the name or the indication, or he is indicating or he's showing us the fairy and the unacknowledged love of William Butler Yeats for Mortgane. So this was the first symbol, and on the other hand we see other things as well, like this is there are many other things as well in this poem. So here, first of all, we see Anaphora, then we see symbolism of this fire as the fairy love. Then we have kind of that, this imagery here. Imagery that is, when we are reading this, we are kind of feeling that, that image is returning, that image is coming to our mind. What is the image? A person sitting by the fire. This image is arriving to our mind. This is called as imagery. Visual imagery. A person sitting by the fire comes to our mind, and this is called as imagery. So, first of all, we came to know there is Anaphora, then there is this symbolism, symbol here, symbol of fire. Then there is this imagery that is nodding by the fire, and this is all about the literary devices in this stanza. Now coming to the next stanza, coming to the next part of this poem, we see that again Mortgane has been referred to in a different form by William Butler Yeats. Though Mortgane has not been mentioned in this poem in any form, yet if we read the context of these poems, if we read the story of William Butler Yeats, his life, you'd come to know exactly whom William Butler Yeats all through his life had been referring to in his poem. The next stanza is as, how many? It starts with a question. How many loved your moments of gold grace? How many loved your moments? Moments means the events, the times of glad grace of your young life, of your glad grace. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love and loved your beauty with love? False or true, whether they were true or whether they were false. Or it can also be referring to, is they true or false? Weren't people there who would love you, your grace, your young life? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, but one man. There was only one man who loved, but one man loved the pilgrim soul. Loved the pilgrim soul. The pilgrim soul in you. There was only one person who loved the pilgrim soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. Now here is a question being posed to Morgan, that how many people were there, how many men or women were there who loved the moments of your glad grace. Your glad grace here means the beauty that you had, the youth that you had. So there were so many people who were kind of aghast, who were kind of astonished and surprised and puzzled whenever they saw you with the beauty that you had, the appearance that you had. However, they only loved you kind of, apparently. Your appearance was, loved by them. How many were there who loved the moments, the time of your grace, the time of your glad grace, the time of your bloom? They loved it and loved your beauty with love. They really loved you. Maybe they really loved with heart. Whether they were false in love, whether they were true in love. But they were definitely loving your glad grace. They were loving your beauty of the youth. But there was only one man, there was only one unique man who did not love your appearance actually, although he loved your appearance, but he was not actually fond of your appearance only, he was actually loving your pilgrim soul in you. Pilgrim actually means a devotee. A devotee who journeys towards a special holy place, a special religious place. For example, the people who go for Hajj or Umrah, they are called as pilgrims. So here, by the word pilgrim, this William Butler Yeats means a person having the soul of a devotee, having the soul of a pious person. So I only know that you have that pilgrim soul in you. I was not fond of your appearance. I was actually fond of your pious soul, the soft soul in you, the real, errorless soul in you. So there was only one man who loved you from the very core of his heart, and that was me, who loved your pilgrim soul, the inner side of your life, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. I'm sure that there might be people who would be, changing their perspective about you when seeing you after so many years. They might not love the looks that have changed in your face, but I'm the one who has always loved you and who will love for the changing face that you have, for the wrinkled face that you will get, for everything that will change with time. Obviously the despair will come, the sorrows will arrive in your life, and I will be the person who will love that as well. So all the things would be, for me, eternal. So here we see in this stanza, poet actually is talking about the eternal love. He's not talking about the surface, the love which is more importantly for the looks, for the appearance, but he's talking about the eternal love, the love which never dies. Eternal love that has already remained in the books in the written form, and we are still reading it. Though both of them are not in this world, but yet we are considering this poem as referring, as an addressing to famous Morgan. So in this stanza as well, we see the rhyme scheme is as glad grace, then it is ending with the face in the last line. So here again we have A, and here it is B and B. So the rhyme scheme of this stanza is A, B, B, A. So in this poem, in this stanza as well, we have the same kind of rhyme scheme, and the words that have been used are referred to Morgan only. In this, the rhyme scheme is not so for being mentioned, but whatever rhyme schemes are, it is not for you. I'll be discussing those important ones in the classroom. So we're done with this stanza as well. Then we have the last stanza. The last stanza is also of the 4 lines. And in that also Morgan is referred to as a meek soul. So it starts as, and bending down, and bending down, beside the glowing bars, beside the glowing bars. Beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly, murmur a little, sadly. Murmur a little sadly, how love fled. How love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars, and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. So coming towards the end of this poem, the last stanza is again a quatrain. So in this quatrain, again, we have the same kind of addressee, the person to whom this whole poem has been addressed to, that is Maud Gonne, and the poem obviously has been written by William Butler Yeats. So coming to the rhyme scheme, it again has the same rhyme scheme. It is A, then it is A, here it is B, B. So the rhyme scheme of this stanza is A, B, B, A. And let's come to the interpretation of this poem. It is like we have these words such as glowing bars.